What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS Season 15 episodes 2 through 4 reviews, another multi-episode review. Before I talk about them individually, I do want to mention one thing about this, and that is apparently Alex Quinn is not a part of these first 4 episodes of the season so far. I know they had a reason for it in the first episode, which I do not remember now, but yeah, I'm not really sure why she's not a part of the team, but I assume she'll return at some point. As far as my feelings on it, my opinions, I'm kind of indifferent. She is a fairly interesting character, but I don't think she is so vital to the team that without her we lose something. It's just kind of okay, she's not going to be there. I'll miss her a little bit, but I'm not going to it's not going to ruin anything about the show. So, on to the individual episodes. First we have episode 2, Twofer. It's pretty good episode following the first one. You've got McGee and Gibbs both returning after what happened in Paraguay. You've got the emotional impact of what happened. You've got them going to psych evals to try to determine whether or not they're going to return to the team. Couple things about this episode. First of all, great setup. I love the fact that McGee and Gibbs are kind of handling themselves differently. Gibbs is cracking jokes, acting like everything's fine, talking a lot, just to convince everybody, hey, I'm okay. And McGee is like the exact opposite. He's not really talking to anybody. He's making excuses for why he can't go to the psych evals. And so I just love the setup for it because you've got the two differing sides of it. Gibbs, we've seen him do this before. We've seen him sort of act like things are okay whenever things aren't okay because he's very good at hiding his emotions and also, kind of making the people around him feel like things are okay. So it's almost like it's not just what he needs, it's what the people around him need as well. So if they need him to go to psych evals, if they need him to act like he's, just a member of the team, he can do all of that because he feels like that's what everybody else needs, that's what I can do. So, yeah, I really like seeing that side of him. McGee, we see he's scared to go to these psych evals and see if anything's wrong with him. Because he's scared that after he does this psych eval that something might actually be wrong with him and that he won't be able to return to normalcy. So, yeah, perfectly understandable, and they have a very nice scene between him and Gibbs where Gibbs is pretty much telling him, go to the psych eval, find out if something's wrong, don't be scared of it, because that's just how it is. It's what has to happen for you to return to your everyday life. And so, yeah, it was a really good scene, very emotional. The only thing that I am a bit disappointed by is in this episode we see Bishop is now the team leader. And we've seen this happen before. We've seen it where Gibbs has had to step down as the leader for a case or two. If he has no clue about the case because somebody else has all the information, he steps down as the leader and becomes just another, one of the members of the team. And that person now has to step up as the leader and take charge. We've seen this happen before. And so to see Bishop in charge with Gibbs as one of the underlings, we haven't seen that dynamic yet. We've seen Bishop be in charge. We've seen Gibbs have to be just one of the members of the team taking orders, but we've never seen it mixed together. And so for Bishop seeing Gibbs as a mentor, that's got to be an interesting dynamic. But the problem is that it only lasts for this episode. By the end of it, we never hear if Gibbs gets cleared to be leader again, but by the next episode, he is leader. So it's almost like that whole idea is just wasted. How interesting would it have been for either the first half of the season or maybe for the first 5 or 6 episodes, we get to see Bishop leading the team while Gibbs is still, recovering mentally from what happened in Paraguay and just being a member of the team. That would be interesting. They could talk about what it means to Bishop to now be the leader to the guy who was practically her father figure for a while. I mean, that's an interesting dynamic to explore, but they just waste it by putting Gibbs back in charge in the next episode with no real indication that that's what happened. I don't know. I feel like an opportunity was there and you didn't really go through with it. You just kind of talked about it in the first episode and then ignored it after that. As far as the case is concerned in this episode, though, it was fairly decent. You got a guy showing up in a coffin alongside another body who was supposed to be buried there. It turns out he's a Navy SEAL. He was supposed to be testifying against a drug lord who shot another guy. The victim and his wife actually became friends with the guy who got shot. And so after he disappeared for I think they said like 2.5 years. Apparently, his wife and the guy who got shot developed a little bit of relationship. I thought they handled that part very well because most of the time in these shows you see like automatically that makes her a horrible person for what happened. But in this one they treat it like, yeah, that would happen. Like it's not like she was cheating on him. She just made a friend in this guy who got shot because they all three were friends. And then after her husband went missing for 2 years, eventually, yeah, romantic feelings started to happen. So it does make sense. However, the end of the case is kind of bland because we find out, the drug lord apparently made some sort of cocktail that was supposed to help the guy who got shot with his strength or something. So he gave that cocktail to the victim, who apparently took it and because his back was hurting or something, and then started to feel better, then started to get sick, and so they got into some sort of argument, and then we never really find out what exactly happened. The guy who got shot is claiming that the cocktail is what poisoned him and killed him. That he fell and like hit his head on something, and they're making it seem like, oh no, you killed him, like you pushed him onto it, or I don't know. They never really clarified what exactly happened. They just blamed that guy for it and said he was the murderer, he was the killer, even though he was saying no, it was the cocktail that killed him. So I don't know. It was kind of a vague ending, but that's about it for that the second episode. Third episode, Exit Strategy, bit more return to, I guess, a typical episode, but still decent overall. You've got Torres setting up on a stakeout with this Metro police officer. Interesting setup because all of a sudden after they're done, after Torres is done taking down the guy they were supposed to be staking out, he comes to find out that the Metro police officer is missing. There's a woman police officer that he was talking to before he went missing who apparently was presumed dead. The sergeant lieutenant, I think is what he was called, comes in to help out NCIS, although kind of also being that forceful, this is our jurisdiction. It's one of my cops that went missing. I'm going to take over this case. I don't know. It wasn't as bad as some of the people in the past have been, but it still felt pretty forced. But we see, he steps in to help out. So we find out that this woman who was presumed dead apparently was having an affair with this guy that she was supposed to be undercover scouting out. And so she ended up having his kid, and that's why she had to fake her death. After a car bomb nearly blew her up, she's like, oh, well, everybody thinks I'm dead, so I'll just pretend to stay dead. And she figured that maybe he had found her again, but then, he was just too obvious a villain. So at that point, you kind of figure, okay, well, who else could it be? It's not the mom that took her own kid, because that wouldn't make sense. It's not the guy who got shot and killed, the one that Torres was on the stakeout with. It's not the guy who was the father of the kid, because he just clearly showed, okay, I didn't want that life on my kid. There's only one other suspect, and it's the sergeant lieutenant. And we come to find out that apparently he wanted the bearer bonds that he thought she had, which she didn't. And so that's why he took her son. That's why he tracked down the guy that Torres was on the stakeout with, because he knew if he found him, he would find her. I don't know. It was kind of predictable by the end of it. Once you knew that there were only 2 or 3 suspects left, 2 of the suspects were just way too obvious. The other one is like, ooh, that would be a good plot twist. It just made it too obvious. There weren't enough suspects in this episode. But that's the case. The part with Ducky is definitely the more important part of this episode. We see he goes, in the first episode he was receiving calls from his alma mater over in Scotland. And then he gets a letter in the mail at the end of the episode saying, hey, we want to honor you as like the best forensic investigator or something like that, and we want you to come speak at this event. So in the second episode, he's speaking at this event and is pretty much giving a great lecture. I love these parts. It had nothing to do with the case, but I loved listening to him talk about it because he's a very good speaker. Ducky is a great character, and listening to his speeches is just part of his character. And ultimately, after he's done giving lectures and stuff, he's receiving a lot of questions because all the students just love his lectures, of course. And this woman comes up and says, hey, you've got a phone call. Apparently he knows her, and it's not really a phone call. They're there to hook up, I guess. Thinking about old people hooking up is a little bit strange, but for Ducky, I'll make an exception because he's Ducky. He's awesome. But ultimately, we find out that apparently they know each other. They go way back, but he apparently has been asked by her several times to come work for her wherever she is. I can't remember where it is now. But just, he's been asked several times to work for her. And every time he said, no, I'm working for NCIS, I can't do that. And so she finally tells him, look, it's just going to be for one semester, and you just be there to pretty much write your book. That's it. So yeah, he's just like, you know what? I'll think about it. And then he goes and talks to Gibbs. Gibbs apparently has already heard about the offer and tells him, yeah, we're good. Palmer, this episode, did a very good job of handling the case, handling everything that Ducky normally does. He's a bit nervous, but at the same time, you can see he's confident in what he's doing. And so, yeah, they're doing a very good job of sort of building up the fact that Palmer can handle this without Ducky. Even though Ducky's a great character, if he was gone for, I don't know, however long he's going to be gone, Palmer can do it. So they did a very good job of sort of building that up. I'm going to miss Ducky for however long he's not on the show. I hope they bring him back halfway through the season because I don't want to go like a whole season without him. But we'll see how far this is going to last. But then we get into the third episode and we can see they're clearly trying to replace him. I don't know if this is supposed to be a replacement or just a temporary, like, here's your helper, Palmer. But it starts off the episode with this woman coming up to Gibbs' door, very out of nowhere and very obviously not a coincidence. But she's coming in the middle of this hurricane and just knocks on the door. It's like, oh, so good to see you. I'm just like, what? And then she pretends like she doesn't know him and then whips out some sort of badge and like flips it out like a cop. I'm like, who are you? And then she says she's a doctor. I'm like, no, you're not. And I love the fact that, it was so obvious from the very beginning that she's not just some random person. She's clearly here for some reason. And Gibbs calls her out on it at the end of the episode. He's like, I knew about 30 seconds in. I'm like, I think we all did. It was pretty obvious. But apparently she's like a forensic analyst, I think. So apparently she's not quite like a mortician or whatever Ducky and Palmer do, but she can look at dead bodies, she can look at certain things, and I guess provide an analysis of what probably happened. So she's not an autopsy person, but she can provide, I guess, an idea of how the crime may have taken place based on some of the clues on the body. So it is kind of an interesting addition to the team. It's a little bit different than what Palmer and Ducky do. I'll be interested to see if they're able to handle her well enough. And, how long is she going to be there? Is she just going to be there till Ducky comes back? Or is this going to be like a permanent thing where she stays on, even if Ducky does come back? I don't know what to expect. But it's interesting enough. I'll wait to see how her character develops because right now, I don't know. I feel like I've seen her character so many times on this show and on several other shows. She's like that mysterious, don't really know a lot about her, but she seems like she knows more than she's letting on. Also that very like strong, independent woman type who doesn't need no man or something like that. I don't know. I feel like I've seen this type of character so many times. I'm hoping she's not just going to be a cliche. I want her to develop into an interesting character that actually has a character that I can remember. I think, what's her name? Sloane, maybe? I remember her first name was like Jackie or something like that. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But as far as the case is concerned, fairly interesting case, I guess. It started off, interestingly enough, with some people at a murder mystery type thing, which I just got hired on to a theater troupe here in Atlanta doing murder mysteries and stuff. So, yeah, I was kind of like, hey, look, that could be me one day, pretending to be dead. But anyway, so the guy walks out of this room with a stab wound. Of course, everybody's just like, oh, hey, look, it's part of the show. And then, oh, no, it's not part of the show. But we come to find out that apparently somebody attacked this guy and kidnapped his wife. And so we go through this whole thing where they're suspecting all these people. She was a Navy officer on a ship, and so they suspect the members of her ship because apparently she was going to divorce this guy, but then they decided to take a break and see other people and then realize, they preferred each other, and so it came back. So a couple interesting things about this episode. First of all, I have a little bit of a problem with how it ended with the wife and the husband. Partially because we see the husband in the hospital and he's like freaking out after he got stabbed. because his wife got taken. And so we see him like freaking out, like, no, let me up, no, she got taken from me, I need to find her, you guys need to find her for me. And we see him freaking out, and it's like, we gotta find this guy's wife. Well, then they find her dead in the back of the car, and then we never see the husband again. It just disappears. Just like, really? We've talked about this for so long. I don't know. Well, no, never mind, they did question it, but I don't know, it just never felt like... It felt like that scene where we saw him in the hospital was going to lead to something. It was going to lead to like an emotional breakdown whenever we found out she was dead. But then the next scene we see he's being interrogated because he's a possible suspect for killing her because of the divorce papers. We never got to see that emotional payoff. You know, the guy who's about to throw down some nurses and doctors who are trying to hold him down from the bed because he wanted to find his wife so bad. And there's just no emotional payoff for it. I don't know, it felt kind of weird. But then on top of that, you know, we got this other kind of storyline going on where we see Bishop and Torres go to the ship where this woman was working to talk to some of the people on the ship. The Skeleton Crew is the title of the episode is called. Because everybody else is gone because of the hurricane coming in. And so they go to the ship to find out about what type of working conditions were going on. You know, is there some sort of clue there? And then we find out that Bishop apparently went to high school with one of the guys working on the ship. They apparently did not get along because he was a jock and she was like the outcast. And so we just have another one of these kind of cliched storylines where it's like, oh, you know, you look so much better, you know, you grew up, you're older now. The jock, the bully in high school is now the nice guy, while the one who was bullied in high school hates their guts and is acting more like the bully now. I don't know, it felt kind of cliche, and ultimately, where does it lead? They make up at the end. I've seen this before. I don't know, I wanted them to do something different. That's the thing. I've seen this story so many times, I know what to expect. If you throw something else in there, change it up, now I don't know what to expect anymore. You know, one of these times, I want that person to be the killer. You know, because they never do that. They never have it to where, hey, I used to know you back in high school. Are you the killer? No, of course not. Oh, you're not the killer. Okay, I'm sorry I suspected you. I probably shouldn't have been that mean. Why not one time have it actually be them as the killer? Like, this guy is acting so nice. And at one point, she's even like, you know, you're just falling for his trap. That's all he does. He acts all nice, but he's truly evil inside. What if it was, like, he was just acting innocent the entire time, and he was, you know, I can't believe you suspect me. You must really despise me if you think I could possibly kill her. And it's just like she finally starts falling for his act. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. It was just really rough for me. You know, I'm sorry I treated you that way. And then come to find out by the end of it, no, he actually did kill her. Like, he was lying to you the whole time. It would just be so much more interesting, and it's something that I would never suspect. Because I never see that happen. I never see the old high school friend returning end up being the killer. That never happens. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed. But at the same time, you know, it's still pretty good. You know, the acting is really good. The cases are interesting enough. It's a good start to the season so far. You know, these first 4 episodes have been very good, keeping me interested. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, seeing what they're going to do with the new character coming on, seeing how they're going to handle Quinn and Ducky not being on the team for now. You know, is it going to be a case where they come back in the next couple episodes, or is it going to be they just don't return till second half of the season? I don't know. But I do want them to start taking a few more chances here and there, because it felt like they might start doing that in the second episode. You know, whenever you've got Gibbs coming back and he's acting all happy-go-lucky and he's being all, like, cheery and stuff, it felt like maybe it was going to be a new side of Gibbs. He's a changed man after what happened in Paraguay. But then ultimately it leads to the next episode, everything's back to the same old, same old. You know, he's acting the same, everybody else in the team's acting the same. Aside from Ducky leaving the team, you know, everything's the same. And I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not taking a few more chances with some of these characters, maybe changing some of their characters around, you know, having them grow because of experiences. I don't want to see them be the same people they always have been. I want to see some change, because people do change based on experiences. So that's about it for me, though. Let me know what you guys thought of these second through fourth episodes. You know, were they good? Were they bad? What do you expect to see for the rest of the season? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future NCIS reviews. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.